Hello students, welcome to Commerce Diction. Myself Riya Das. Today I am going to discuss on the difference between Companies Act 2013 and Companies Act 1956. So now let's begin. So our first point is on the basis of financial year. The companies must have their financial year ending on 31st March every year. So according to Companies Act 2013, every company must have their financial year ending on 31st March every year. Okay, and not on any other month. But according to Companies Act 1956, the companies were permitted to have financial year ending on a date decided by a company. It means according to Companies Act 1956, a company can decide the ending date of a financial year, and it may end on in the month of March or any other month, maybe January, February, April, May, June, any other month, not on a particular like 31st March. Okay, but according to Companies Act 2013, it is mandatory to end any company's financial year on 31st March every year. Okay, now our next point is on the format of financial statement. So the format of financial statement is prepared as per Schedule 3 according to Companies Act 2013. But according to Companies Act 1956, it was prepared as per Schedule 6. Okay. Now our next point is maximum number of partners. So the companies, here it will be company. Okay. Sorry. So next point is on the basis on the maximum number of partners. The Companies Act 2013 prescribed that the number of partners should not be more than 100. According to Companies Act 2013, the maximum number of members should not be more than 100. And as per Companies Rules 2014, it should not be more than 50. Now currently it is 50, and if a company decides to get a maximum number of partners, it should not be more than 100 as it is specified in the Companies Act. It means according to Act of 2013 it is 100, and as per Companies Rule 2014 it is up to 50. Okay, but according to Companies Act 1956, it is 10 in case of banking business and 20 in any other type of business. Okay, now our next point is maximum number of shareholder in private limited company. So our maximum number of members is 200 including the past and present employees according to Companies Act 2013, and the maximum number of members according to Companies Act according to 1956 Act is 50 in case of a private limited company. Remember, now it is increased to 200 in case of a private company. Okay. Now next point is one person company. A company which has only one person as its member can form one person company. Now this concept is introduced in the Companies Act 2013, but in the Companies Act 1956 this concept was not there, it did not exist. Okay, in Companies Act 2013 a one person can form a company which is known as one person company. Okay, now our next point is issue of shares at discount. Now, according to Companies Act 2013, Section 53 prohibits issue of shares at a discount. However, Section 54 permit issue of employee stock ownership plans to its employees at a discount. Okay, ESOP means employee stock ownership plans. Now, the issue of shares at discounts are prohibited under Companies Act 2013, but it can be issued to the existing shareholders, which is known as sweat equity shares, and it also permit issue of employee stock ownership plans to its employees at a discount. Okay, it means the shares of a particular company can be issued to the existing company at a less price, or we can say at a discount. Okay, but we cannot issue the shares to public at a discount, as it is prohibited under Companies Act 2013. But under Companies Act 1956, Section 79 permitted issue of shares at a discount. It means we can issue the shares to public at a discount. It was permitted in the Companies Act 1956, but now under Companies Act 2013 it is not permitted. Okay. Now our next point is security premium reserve. Now the utilization of security premium reserve is provided under section 52 subsection 2, but in Companies Act 1956 it was provided in section 77A and 7, means its section is changed. Now security premium reserve is utilized for issue of bonus shares, for buying back the shares of its own companies. Okay, so these are some purpose for which the security premium reserve can be utilized. Now our next point is Article of Association. So what is Article of Association? It is a document which contains the rules and regulation beyond which the company cannot perform. So if any company limited by shares does not adopt their own article of association, it can apply Table F as per Companies Act 2013. And according to Companies Act 1956, Table A was applied where companies did not adopt their own article of association. It means under Companies Act 2013, Table F was applied if any company does not have their own article of association. But according to Companies Act 1956, Table A was applied where the companies does not have their own article of association. Okay. Now our next point is interest in calls in arrear. According to Companies Act 2013, in the absence of a clause in the article of association, the maximum interest chargeable on calls in arrear is 10%. It means if any member does not pay our call money, he has to pay interest after the due date. So it is an income for the company. Now the maximum interest that can be charged by a company in absence of a clause in the article of association is up to 10% and not more than that. But according to Companies Act 1956, in absence of a clause in the article of association, the maximum interest chargeable on calls in arrear was 5% and not more than that. Now it means according to Companies Act 2013, it has increased to 10%, which was earlier up to 5%. Okay. Now our next point is interest on calls in advance. In absence of a clause in the article of association, the maximum interest payable on calls in advance is 12%. Now what is calls in advance? Calls in advance is the money paid for call money which is not yet due by the shareholders. Now the company have to pay interest for the advance money received for the months which have been it has paid and which is not yet due. Okay, so it is an expense for the company because the company have to pay interest for the advance money received which is not yet due. Now in the absence of a clause in the article of association, the company have to pay the maximum interest which the company can pay is up to 12% and not more than that. But according to Companies Act 1956, the maximum interest payable on calls in advance was up to 6%. Okay. Now on the basis of transfer of reserve, it is not compulsory to transfer profit to reserves of the company. Now we know general reserve, okay, which is transferred from the profit of the financial account. Okay. Now this transfer of profit is not mandatory according to Companies Act 2013, which was earlier mandatory, or we can say compulsory according to Companies Act 1956. And any company has to transfer at least 10% of profit to the reserves of the company. Now these reserves are utilized for any purpose of the company. Okay. For any of the contingency which may happen in the company. but now it is not compulsory or mandatory to transfer the profit to the reserves of the company. Now our next point is on the basis of corporate social responsibility. Now what is corporate social responsibility? It means the profit of the company must be spent for any of the social purpose and not for the profit motive, okay, which is not for which must be spent for social purpose, means for the help of the people or not on a profit motive, okay, such as for education purpose, such as spending money on hospitals for the treatment of people, which is for the social purpose and from which the company does not get any type of benefit, okay. Now it is mandatory under Companies Act 2013 that CSR spending of at least 2% of average net profit during the preceding 3 years is mandatory, means a company has to spend at least 2% of the profit during the last 3 years must be spent on the social work. But CSR spending is not mandatory under Companies Act 1956. Okay, but it is now has become compulsory under Companies Act 2013 to spend the profit of at least 2% on the corporate social responsibility, means for social purpose, okay. Now our next point is on the basis of woman director and resident director. A certain classes of company compulsorily appoints a woman director and resident director under Companies Act 2013. It means under Companies Act 2013, every class of company must appoint one woman director. At least there must be one woman director. And what is resident director? A resident director is a director or we can say a person who has stayed in India for at least 182 days in India, so that he or she can become a resident of India, and that person is appointed as a resident director of the company, okay. But according to Companies Act 1956, it is not compulsory to appoint a woman director and a resident director. This concept of woman director and resident director was not there under Companies Act 1956. Okay. Now next point is the number of director. The maximum number of directors in public as well as private company is 15 under Companies Act 2013. But according to Companies Act 1956, the maximum number of directors in a public company is 12. Okay. So the maximum number of directors under Companies Act 2013 has increased to 15 of public company as well as private company. In Companies Act 1956, the maximum number of directors in a public company was 12, which is now increased to 15. Okay. Now our next point is on the basis of schedules and sections. Under Companies Act 2013, it has 7 schedules and 464 sections, but according to Companies Act 1956, it has 15 schedules and 658 sections. It means it is now reduced to 7, which was earlier 15, and sections are also reduced. It was having 658 sections under Companies Act 1956, and but now it has decreased to 464 sections under Companies Act 2013. Okay.